Welcome to Fun with Electronics with the Resonator, Episode 1. This episode, I had developed these crystals. I just designed them and printed them. Uh, I actually hot glued them on to these wires. I just poked them through the top of the lid of this container and then attached these jump wires and then just kind of have them coming out of here. I just did this so that I could hold the LEDs in place and the crystals in place and everything. Not the LEDs, but the crystals in place. I didn't remember exactly which wires I had used for exactly which colors. I just remembered that those are the colors I used, the colors like plus minus. So here I'm testing each pair of wires out to determine which color LED crystal I am using. This first one here is my yellow. I'm using the brown negative cord and then blue for the positive on the yellow cord here. So I'm just going to test the next set, which is my yellow and green, yellow negative and green positive, and that was my blue light. So go ahead and write that down here. And the last light should be my violet light, but I just wanted to double check to make sure I was right. This is my orange negative, oh sorry, red negative and orange positive for the violet light. Again, I'm just testing those to the negative, positive sides of the batteries, and then the light opens up. The violet light, yes, as it shows there, is only a 3 millimeter. I couldn't. I wanted to see the difference between the 5 millimeter and the 3 millimeter. So now I'm just choosing positions on the breadboard, as it said. I decided to use 1 and 3 for the brown and blue. Yellow, we're going to use 10 and then green 13. And then for the violet one, which is red and orange, we're going to use 1 and 3 on the second board. That one's which I'm going to use for fading. And I have two different boards that I'm going to use. The Uno 3 boards that I'm going to use here in a minute. But first I'm going to wire up those cords right into the ports I just chose, 1 and 3 for the brown and blue, 10 and 13 for yellow and green, and 1 and 3 on the second breadboard for red and orange. I accidentally made a mistake when I'm putting in the red and orange. I put it in 1 and 2, and I'll correct it later. It's not a big deal, but I usually just separate it a little bit more. I have fat fingers, so it helps to separate them a little further than the next number on that breadboard. So now I have these resistors that I'm going to put in place. They're 220 ohm resistors. You can't really see it. I didn't pull it close enough to the camera. I'm going to attach these to the positive side, so the blue, the green, and the orange, which will be 3, 13, and 3 again. This is just to make sure I don't burn out my LEDs coming from my power supply, which is going to be my Uno R3 boards. So this is 13. We're going to go ahead and put it in there. And then this last one, we're putting in 3. I still haven't corrected my mistake yet, but okay, now I'm going to add short little black wires from my one port to the ground line on my breadboards. I actually have it wrong. The first one I did, I realized I put it on the wrong side. There's a separation on these breadboards in the middle, so it's got to be on the side with my connector. So I just readjust it right here. Then I'm going to place another one on the negative yellow line, which will be 10, and hop it over to my rail of or my line of ground wires on my breadboard. Here I was thinking I would ground it, my fade to the Elegoo board, but I realized I don't want to do that. I need to create a circuit, and I need to create a circuit back to the OSEPP board, which we'll get to in just a moment here. I also like to put my grounds at the number 1 position on my breadboards from my Uno 3 R3 boards. It's just kind of a preference. So now I have the grounds done. I'm going to do the lead wires So after it goes from the LED to the resistor, and then goes from the resistor to the input on the Uno R3 boards. So the first one I'm going to attach here, oh, I'm not going to attach anything right now. I'm just going to put the wires in place. My yellow wire is for my yellow LED. My blue wire here is for my blue LED. And then I'm using a long red wire for my violet LED because I don't have a violet wire. And that one's going to be going to the secondary board. Here's where I realized I was on the breadboard line 2 and I should be on line 3 just so I could fit my fingers in there. So I adjusted it. Now I have all of my breadboards attached, the wires attached, everything looks fine, at least from the LEDs to the breadboard, the resistors. Right here is my OSEPP Uno R3 Plus board I'm going to use for fading. They has different marks on the board that show pound signs on this board, and those are the ones that allow fading. The other one ports do not allow fading. I ended up putting it on port 3, which is a fading port on both. Oh, it's a fading port. I'm attaching my ground now from on my secondary breadboard to the OSEPP Uno board here, and that should be good. It's all set for me to load the software onto it. Now I'm going to use my Elegoo. This is the Uno 3 R3 board. I like this board a lot. It has a great feature of showing the ports on the side, right here on the side of the little risers that you stick your inputs or your wires into. So it's just easier to see which port exactly you're going into. So again, I have to choose fading ports. On the Elegoo, they show a little tilde instead of a pound sign. And so I actually going to choose yellow as port 9, and my blue I'm using port 10. And then after I attach these are my outputs. I'm going to go ahead and attach the ground to the upper breadboard here. This way it completes the circuit of complete circuit for the LEDs. And that goes into the ground. Now we're ready to go ahead and program and test. So I'll be back with the programming. Here's my logic for making a blinking display. I actually chose to only do 360 milliseconds. That way I was just kind of keeping my pattern of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off of the yellow light. And then I just had to figure out how to do the rest from here and make sure that the other light blinked with it and kept my 30 seconds. I'm going to start programming my blinking pattern. The first step is to go ahead and set up the what pins on the board I'm going to use for each of the different lights. Basically, you got to set up your initialize, like the yellow, say what it is, and then say equal, and then say the pin number. So I'm using pin 9 and 10 as I had said in my video earlier. 9 I'm using for the yellow LED, and 10 I'm using for the blue LED, as you can see here. After this step here, the next step is going to be to make those ports outputs so that I can output right to those ports. So that's going to be the setup, the void setup here. It's going to be a pin mode, and then you say what the first parameter is what you initialized, and then what you want it to do. Basically, we want it to be an output. So we're going to do that for both the LED or Y LED, the yellow LED, and the B LED or the blue LED. From here, we're going to start our loop, which in our loop, we're just going to basically turn on and off the lights at different intervals or different Yeah, different intervals. So we do that by doing the command of a digital write. We digital write either high or low. High is going to be an on. Digital write low is going to be off. So when you do the digital write command, you're going to need to put your parentheses and then say what port you're doing, which was the YLED, and then what I'm doing with it. I'm going to go high with it, which is going to be on. That's just the programming language, high and low, on or off. After this, after almost every one of these, is going to be a delay. And this is where I had to figure out my math. And if you saw on my little pattern and all that on the bottom, you saw everything that was like, a YH, which was, the yellow on. And then you see a dash, a D, and then a time. And that's my delay. And then whatever the next one. And that was just basically my commands to figure out everything and make sure that I continue to have a constant 30 millisecond blink on the yellow light. So my first one, I'm just going to do the 30 seconds delay here. And now the trick with this here, like most programs, it's just, copy and paste. I'm going to have to just be doing on-offs, or ons, back and forth between the blue and the yellow. And so if I just copy that little kind of format, I can just keep, changing what I need to change on each of the different steps. One of the other things to do here, and you see me do here, is doing the comments to keep track of where I'm at, because this is like, I don't know, like 40, 50 lines. And it just helps me to look at, go back and forth, look at my map, and look at, keep track of where I am. Like, what am I doing on that stage at the 30 second, after 30 seconds, or actually at the 30 millisecond, what am I doing? I'm turning the yellow off. Okay, then at the 40 millisecond, what am I doing? I'm going to turn the blue off. And this is where I had messed up. I forgot to turn both the blue and the yellow on to start. So you'll see me cut the video and then I'll come back to it because I had made a mistake. I made a mistake and I came back and I fixed my mistake and then continued on. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so that we don't have to see everything in slow motion because I make a lot of typos with my fidgety hands and stuff. So yeah, I'll just cut to the fast, quick typing here and then we'll come back to me in a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is try to get my fade going here on the OS EPP. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it first. I think I have a program running in there already, but I'm going to go ahead and push the fade. This one is already pre-installed. Oh, there it goes. It wasn't reading it at first. Okay, so my computer's reading it now. I'm going to go ahead and push my fade. Oh, I didn't change this. My fade is going to be in 3. Let me change it real quick here. 3. Now I can push it. And if I have this worked out right, we should fade in and out. Yes, we're fading in and out. Hopefully you can see that on the video. Now you should be able to see it. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, so we got the fade working. So now that we're going to test our blink loop that I created, we're going to push this one to the iligu.
here like this. Push this to the Ely goo. Oh. Let's go ahead and plug this one in. This one too should have a program, and as you see, it's already flickering. It's already doing something on that port, but it's not what I want it to do, so we're going to go ahead and push it. Oops, I pushed it to the wrong one. So let's push the fade back here. Alright, so I got the fade back there, so let's go back here. We're going to switch ports now. We're going to go to the Ely goo. Now we can push this one, which is my blink loop. And that worked. As you can see, this is a steady pattern. It should go every 30 milliseconds. It's just flashing. As you can see, this is kind of a random pattern of just a flicker. So you got the random flicker, you got the the strobe, and then the fade in and out. So it worked pretty good. I think my pattern worked pretty good. I probably could have extended it and tweaked it a little bit more to create more of a random pattern for this one. But so far, I think it worked really good. So turn on it on a couple more times. Actually, you want to get closer? Let's get closer. It's my own design.